Well, volume. Wow. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is the Talamanca Review. It's 11:08 p.m. on Monday, the 3rd of November, and I just thought I'd pop on and do a quick podcast. And I do mean quick. I think I'm going to work my way back into this after the last big break. I was thinking about that last podcast, the one with the earthquake in it, It was kind of weird, I rewatched and I went, holy shit, that's what an earthquake looks like. And you can see the camera shaking and all of this sort of stuff. I find my mind drawn to the world right now. So I'm not sure this is going to be a tremendously multi-dimensional podcast, or I don't want to say spiritual. I think that word's overused, but the usual kind of podcast where I talk about thought, feeling, memory, consciousness, and these things. But I just find that the world is kind of grabbing my attention now, which is the triumph of the devil in a way. I think for the most part, you want to maintain a life where, your existence independent of the world and its news and its events is the focus of your day by day, your moment by moment. But every once in a while, the world just gets to this pitch where you have to gawk. You have to kind of just rubberneck it and go, what the hell is that? And you just can't stop looking at it. That's the way the world grabs me now. So I want to take a look at a little bit of news tonight, and we'll do some short clips. Here we go.
Follow up, Richard?
Yeah, for the Premier, property tax expert Paul Sullivan says he's launching what's called a mass property tax appeal to BC Assessment. Concerns around the impact the Cowichan Lands decision will have on property values in Richmond. What do you say to homeowners in Richmond who are incredibly concerned about their home values due to the decision? And what do you make of this potential appeal around the way that BC Assessment, which is operated by the province, values people's homes in that area?
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Obviously, this is a moment of huge anxiety for homeowners that are in the claim area, as well as business owners that have land in this area. The court decision, the court assured us that they would make a decision that didn't affect landowners in the claim area, so they didn't have to be served. They didn't have to be told about the case, that it was going ahead in court. Unfortunately, that obviously turned out not to be the case. So one of the pieces of information that we're seeking to gather is from property owners in the area. If they're running into impacts that are related to financing or other related issues, it's helpful for us to know. We're applying to the court for something called a stay, which is a pause and a stop on the decision until the Court of Appeal has a chance to consider that. That's important evidence for the court to be able to hear. I understand why people are anxious. I would be anxious. But I want to reassure people we are going to court. We're bringing forward any information that we have. Currently, to date, we don't have information that banks are reluctant to loan in relation to these properties. And it would be helpful for us if that is in fact the case to be able to get that information from homeowners. People still own their properties. You still are able to sell your properties. But the uncertainty, I recognize, is a serious issue, and we need to resolve that as quickly as possible, which is why we've been expediting our work at the Court of Appeal to be able to get there.
Well, the first thing I'll tell you is he's lying. The data is in. Many of the homeowners on their own reached out to their banks and asked if their mortgages would be renewed if they were on variable rate 5-year mortgages or something to that effect. I think there's even 1-year mortgages now, but and they were flat out told no. Okay, So what am I talking about here? If you didn't pick up on it from the clip, let me do this properly. Let me give the whole background, okay? So there was a tribe in Canada that took the British Columbia government to court, which is a provincial government, of which we have 10 provinces. You guys have 50 states, we have 10 provinces. And the rest of our system is pretty much the same. The balance of the power is at the federal level, and then certain powers are vested in the province. So this case hasn't been tested at the Canadian Supreme Court yet. But I do know that the Canadian Supreme Court and the Ministry of Justice in Canada, which is the political body which populates the judges who ascend through the judicial trials to be considered for the Supreme Court of Canada, for which the costume is, I shit you not, very much like some kind of Santa Claus pedophile thing. In fact, you got to see this to believe it. So there they are in all their glory. I wasn't lying. It's some kind of Santa Claus pedophile outfit. That's their uniform. You never seen a more disgusting thing on a human being. And this is part of the pomp and ceremony of the British Empire, right? It's very easy in light of the United States being center stage for the last 75 years to forget the absolute pomposity and ridiculousness of the English. Okay, but there it is in its full glory. So it hasn't gone to the Supreme Court of Canada yet, but the Supreme Court of British Columbia, which is one of the more populous and wealthy provinces in Canada. I would say it's an adjunct of China at this point. And I'm not even joking. I think we've lost it to China. A disproportionate amount of the real estate is owned by China. It's an international criminal port, which is definitely under the influence and control of the Chinese triads. And that's where all the precursors for the fentanyl, most of the fentanyl going into the United States now, is coming from Canada. And most of the precursor stuff is coming into the port of Vancouver. Okay? That's not me talking. That's the best cartel reporters out there. And the best intelligence out there, including senior Royal Canadian Mounted Police and senior CSIS members. Okay? So Canada has become among all the other things it's become an absolute criminal haven. Okay? It's almost like a protectorate, like a no extradition zone or something for the most heinous fucking criminals in the world. Okay? It's just a shit show what's going on in Canada now. I cannot believe. Okay, so let's go. The Cowichan thing. So this is why the world is grabbing me these days, because it's interesting to look at what they're doing. But the really, truly interesting thing is why they're doing it. Okay? So what are they doing? Well, that was the premier of the province of British Columbia. They don't have any idea how to handle this. They're going to seek direction from Ottawa. They're going to ask the federal government to help them interpret this. But they don't know if this is unprecedented in Canada. Like in 2025, for a Canadian native tribe that's been around since the inception of Canada, since the settlers went to Canada. Like centuries. In 2025, they win a court case about a land dispute based on what can only be considered ancient documents. Probably the basis of the Cowichan tribe's case were documents that probably went back at least 150, 200 years. Or the absence of documents, meaning there's no evidence the Cowichan ceded that property. There's no chain of custody where it could clearly be seen in the historical record where they entered into a cogent decision, traded for something, and gave up the land. I think I first saw this about 5 or 6 years ago. And for me, the lesson was Costa Rica. The lesson was Sergio Rojas, which I've covered. It's the Bribri. And that event showed me the power of the United Nations. Now, previous to that, I had never witnessed the power of the United Nations before. And that's probably because I grew up a neighbor to the United States, which habitually and consistently tells the World Court and the UN to go fuck themselves. I mean, there are United Nations warrants out for Benjamin Netanyahu now. Okay? There's only a handful of places he can travel. And you could start World War III by trying to intercept his diplomatic plane when it goes to Washington with fighter jets. And as ludicrous as that sounds, it could be a probable cause for the start of World War III. So here we are in 2025. They told us. And this is what I mean when I say it's not like what they're doing, it's how they're doing it or why they're doing it that's really interesting. They told us we would own nothing. And when you first heard that maybe, 3 to 5 years ago, and by the way, I actually read Klaus Schwab's book, where that statement is in the book, people will own nothing. I actually read that book about 5 years ago, read the whole thing. Horribly written. Not much going on in it. I'd say it's almost an empty book. It's just something that was written for the sake of saying that he wrote a book. People do stuff like that just to have it on their resume. Make themselves seem like a public-facing intellectual, and when they're not. I'm not saying he's a dumb guy. But he's not a public-facing intellectual like a Norman Mailer or Buckminster Fuller or somebody like that back in the day. The thing that I find so astounding about this case and why I think it is so effective, and by effective I mean an effective tool for the global power, is it shakes up the whole system in one blow. Okay? So I'll tell you what I mean. So this is a significant block of land. It has significant real estate on it. In many ways, when you look at the case, you look at the size of the land the Cowichan won and the number of properties on it, and I heard there's about 150 buildings on it. Okay? So these would be suburban homes with like 1 or 2 or 5 acre lots. This is not a tight little suburb on the edge of a city. This is something else. It's a little more upscale than that. And Richmond is a nice area. Okay? It's right on the border with the United States in British Columbia. It's actually south of Vancouver. Very beautiful area. Now, this is a fully developed piece of land. Its value is almost, who can say? I don't know. The value of the land would have to be in the hundreds of billions of dollars now. You could chop that up into lots and sell it in Beijing and Shanghai, and you'd sell out in a week. I'm not joking. You could put it on the international bid market for design and construction companies to come over and start building condos. And you could have 500 condo buildings on that land in a decade. It's a very sought after area internationally. Okay? The Chinese love it. They absolutely love Vancouver. It's the 21st century San Francisco. That's what it is. Chinese started going to San Francisco in the late 1800s. And then they really became present in the early 1900s. And it's the exact same thing for Vancouver. The Chinese started emigrating there. The Hong Kong people started emigrating there in the 80s, knowing that Hong Kong was going to go back to the mainland in 97. Or 99, whenever it was. I get Macau and Hong Kong confused. I was in Hong Kong about a half dozen times, actually, in the early 90s. I loved Hong Kong. So I was there when it was still under British rule. And it was one of the major markets in the world. You know, so there's London, New York, Hong Kong, you know. It was a real, like, money in action place. And there was a lot of stuff going on in Hong Kong. A lot of millionaires in Hong Kong. A lot of millionaires. Yeah. In a way, that's what this is kind of like, what's going on in Richmond, British Columbia. It's almost like when Beijing assimilates you, like Hong Kong and Macau. Right? It's the same place, nothing really changes, but on another level, everything has changed. Right? So you don't know how to lend money. You don't know how to value property if you don't know who owns it. It technically can't even be in the land registry without a valid deed. So if the deeds are invalid, like the whole system crumbles. And it's not just like banks can lose money now as well. Right? So if the valuation of those houses plummet or fall, then the banks will lose money because they loaned mortgages on fair market value before the Cowichan won the land back in the most wild card, odds-breaking court case maybe in Canadian history. But we also know, or I also know, that this is coming from the United Nations, and Canada used to tell the United Nations to go fuck itself. Kind of a little bit of that American chippiness. All right? Or a version of it. We could be tough guys because We live just north of the United States. But this seems to be in complete compliance with the UNDRIP, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. So the question then becomes, what are the Cowichan going to do? And they're not saying much right now. Okay? So that was the premier of the province of British Columbia. And you could see the whole 2-minute interview. The look on his face was, I don't have a fucking clue. Don't look to me for answers. This is unprecedented. We really don't know what's going on. And that's the leader of the province. So this is what I mean when I say that the world has more gravitas for me now. Anyways, that was a quick 20 minutes tonight. I'm going to work my way into this slowly. As you can, I still don't have my voice fully back yet. But I'll be back to what we know and love very soon. I'm going to call this Till the Cows Come Home, in commemoration of Cowichan, the Cowichan people in Canada. That's the tribe name. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this has been the Talamanca Review.